Greetings. I met with a client last week and he's wrestling with what it cost him to do business. And part of why that's important is I think that many businesses struggle with what it actually costs them to do business, and therefore what it costs them per business unit to do business, so they can figure out how to charge for their products and services. For example, that most of us understand what our direct costs are. And let me give you a couple quick examples of that. If I'm in the retail shoe business and I'm reselling shoes, I know what my direct costs are, my quote unquote cost of goods sold. Those are the price that I paid for the pair of shoes that I'm going to sell to somebody else. If I'm in the construction business, my cost of goods sold might be what I pay for my lumber or the coils of wire that I use for a house, or the subcontractors that I use to help with plumbing or whatever it is I'm building. Where I think it becomes challenging for business is to figure out how much their overhead costs are and how to distribute that over the number of products or services that they sell. So I'm going to give you a couple quick examples. My client who's in the construction trade, he charges per contact hour at his clients' places. And so one of the things that I did to help him figure out his costs were to say to him, if over the course of the year you had this many billable hours over the course of the year, you take your total overhead costs, which includes everything from advertising to insurance to rent that you pay to vehicle expense, and divide that by the number of billable hours that you have in the course of the year, assuming that you have relatively the same number of billable hours in the course of the year. And then you will know that when you're figuring out what it cost you to deliver your product or service, you take your direct cost plus that overhead rate, which is your operating expenses or your overhead costs divided by the billable hours. That gives you your cost per unit plus some percentage for profit. Now, the same thing can be true if you're making widgets, and you simply take, it's a different way of doing it, but it's the same concept, is you take all your operating costs other than your direct costs per unit and divide it by the number of widgets that you make in the course of the year, and that gives you your overhead cost per widget. The challenge of this is that you've got to be very careful that over time you're collecting all the money for all the costs you spend. It's amazing to me how many businesses that I run into who don't know how to accurately calculate their costs and therefore end up losing money on every unit they sell, and can't understand why the more they sell, the greater their loss. It's not an uncommon problem. So if you're wrestling with this, or you'd like help figuring out what it costs you to do business and how to recapture those costs in a way that make you profitable, I'd be happy to continue this conversation with you. Until then, take care and be well.